Welcome to Journey to Queendom, the sacred space where survival ends and sovereignty begins. I'm your host, Marci J. Duncan, and this is where we lay down the cape of overachievement, code switching, and self doubt, and we pick up the crown of softness, wholeness, and authenticity. Hey, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Journey to Queendom. I am so happy that you joined me today, and I sure hope you guys are enjoying this process, enjoying hearing about my journey to Queendom, and hopefully, you guys are taking some things away for yourselves. I wanted to remind you that there is a companion workbook that goes along with this podcast. So if you are interested in that, you can check the show notes and it'll all be there for you. All right, guys, now it's time for the check in. I want to check in to see how you are doing today. I know we're doing some deep work over these past few episodes, and I just want to make sure you're doing okay. Last week, I asked you in our homework, if you will, in our Journey to Queendom workbook, I asked you guys to make a list of the things that you say or other people say you should do or you ought to do, right? And in that list, after you've done that whole list, I want to know what things from that list are things that you actually want to do. And it's good to make that difference because the idea here, you should take on responsibility that maybe isn't your responsibility. And if we don't sit down, take the time to look at what we're doing, we'll just keep doing it. You know, I'm a theater teacher, and one of the things I ask my students to do often is notice what you notice about yourself. When we're in a scene, and when I'm giving them feedback or giving them instruction or giving them examples of how to do something differently, I oftentimes see them trying to process, trying to determine whether they want to or whether they don't want to. And I often ask them, notice what you notice about yourself. And when you notice what you notice, what is the root? What is the root of it? Is it fear? Is it insecurity? Is it honestly, I think I have a better idea? Because that's okay. But I challenge you to take stock of the things that you're thinking about and the things that you're doing to make sure that they line up with what you want to do. Okay? All right, let's get into this week's episode. So we're going to focus on the idea that freedom comes in letting them and letting me. And we're going to unpack what that means. You know, for a long time, I carried around everybody else's opinions, everybody else's assumptions, everybody else's burdens, everybody else's I should, I ought to. And it was extremely heavy. Now, during the time, I didn't notice that I was carrying all these things around. But what happened is the more I carried those outside things around, the further I got away from what was inside of me that was actually organic and authentic to me. And that was the problem that I ran into when I started to confront some of these issues in therapy. You know, I didn't know what I wanted. I couldn't answer that question for my therapist. What I wanted, what I needed, what I desired, really and truly desired. I could not confidently answer those questions for myself. And so I discovered the let them theory by Mel Robbins. And guys, I know you guys have probably heard about it. It went viral. And this theory is about accepting what you have control of and what you don't have control of. One of the things that you don't have control of is other people. Another thing you don't have control of is situations, right? You don't have control of those things. So let it happen. Let them do what they're going to do. Let's go deeper. All of the thoughts and feelings that I had on the inside of me that were so far away from me were because I was not allowing myself to take charge of my own life. It was easier for me to go along with the flow of what other people were doing, to ride the wave of somebody else's life. Now, I won't say that I was around here, following the leader or, not active in decisions in my life at all, because that's not true. I was a mom, I was a single mom at the time. And so decisions had to be made and they were being made by me. But the people that I looked up to in my life, the people whose voices I respected, I tended to fashion my actions and my behaviors and my moves off of what I thought would make them proud of me or make them happy with the choices that I was making. And my main fear was that I did not want to be a disappointment. I didn't want to be a disappointment to the people that I truly, truly admired and respected. And I didn't want to be a disappointment to my son. And I certainly didn't want to be a disappointment to myself and my family. So I became overly concerned about what other people thought about what I was doing, about the moves that I was making. And if I got a strong feeling that they were not on the same page or they were heavily disagreeing with me, 9 times out of 10, I wouldn't make that choice. Now, there were some times where, those people didn't agree with what I was doing, and I did it anyway. And that was because I felt a strong urge or push. And I do believe it was God saying to me, no, you're going to do what I tell you to do. So I do believe that it was a strong push from God to go that way. For an example, when I went to grad school, everybody was saying, Marci, you need to leave this boy here. You don't need to take him up there with you. We'll keep him. But I felt a strong push to bring him with me because I knew that he was the reason why I had decided to go to grad school. And he was the reason why I was going to finish or I was going to continue. So I needed him with me. I could not imagine him being without me. So, situations like that, I had enough strength to make that choice, regardless of what other people felt. But in my everyday life, I did a lot of saying no to myself. All right. And a lot of these things were related to past traumas that I had experienced in my life, and they were simply coping mechanisms. Yeah. Coping mechanisms that helped me maintain my sanity, even though what I was doing to myself was causing me further anxiety and further depression and further insecurity and further, that impulse to work harder, to dig in deeper. All of these things were causing me to run around on this hamster wheel that I, for the life of me, could not get off of. And I started to see with therapy and also showing up in my daily devotion that I didn't like what I was doing. I didn't like why I was doing things. And I didn't necessarily agree with what I was doing. And that started to make me incredibly sad because I started to feel like I wasn't in control of my life. And I don't mean control in the sense of that I can navigate and control every single thing that happens and force those things to go my way, but more so being in control of the direction that I walked in and how I got there and why I got there. Those are the things that I was losing sight of, that I no longer saw clearly. And as a matter of fact, I don't know if I've ever seen it clearly. And so this idea of the let them theory started to hit home the more and more I read this book. One of the things that the book highlighted for me is that people don't have to understand why I'm doing what I'm doing. People don't have to understand what I'm doing. That is not a mandate. And that was so ingrained in my head that they had to understand. It had to make sense. They had to be on the same page with me to validate to me that I was on the right track, that I was doing the right thing, because I couldn't trust myself, that I had to have somebody co-sign. I had to have somebody lock in an agreement with me and almost walk with me so that I could have the courage to keep going. Now, all of these things were not evident to me. As I keep saying throughout this process, as I was walking through this was not evident to me. But as I began to show up consistently with my devotional time with God and consistent in my therapy sessions, there was space being made for self-awareness. And that self-awareness was understanding where I was, and how far I was away from what I really wanted. So when God led me to this book, it really did open up my eyes, because the book talks about the idea, since you can't control people, since you can't control situations, let it be. Stop bearing down, clinging on for dear life, trying to force it to go your way. Let it go. Let it be. I remember when I was in labor with my first son, and I had decided before I went in that I was going to do it naturally, because everybody who's ever had a child knows that while you're pregnant, you look at all these shows, you read all these books, and you see all of these things. And back then there was a show that came on television that followed women throughout their pregnancy, delivery, and after they give birth. And I was hooked on this show because, this was my first child. I was young, and so I didn't know what to expect. So I was all about it. And this show really glorified women who were doing it naturally, who were giving birth naturally, right? They were highly esteemed and considered strong women. And of course, that appealed to me because that was my banner, strong, independent woman, right? Presenting. So that appealed to me. And I said, you know what? I'm going to do this naturally. I'm going to do it naturally. These women can do it. So can I. I'm strong. That's what we're doing. That's my plan. So, of course, my son was, it was my first, so he was very late. He had first tried to come early at 6 months. And so they put me on bed rest, and I was on bed rest all that time. And so then he didn't want to come at all. So they had to induce me 10 days after my due date. So y'all, I was more than ready. Okay. So by the time I got there and they were giving me the medication to be induced, everything was going nicely until those contractions started to hit. And then I was like, oh my, okay, let's tap in. Let's do some breathing. Let's get through this thing. And honey, it wasn't enough breathing in the world that could stop those contractions from kicking my butt. I mean, it was unlike anything I have ever felt in my life since, period, right? And all of y'all women who have birthed babies, you know what this is. So honey, I am sitting there bearing down, gritting my teeth, giving the evil eye to anybody who was looking at me in that room. Because I'm trying to focus so hard. I'm like, nobody laugh. Nobody have fun in here. Ain't nothing funny. Let's focus on getting this baby out. Honey, I was miserable. And the nurse kept coming in and saying, you ready for your epidural? I can give you your epidural now. Are you sure you want to keep going in this? And I'm like, no, I'm going to have this baby naturally. I'm going to have this baby naturally. I'm almost there. She says, okay, I'll get the doctor in here and we'll go ahead and check you, see how far along you are. That baby came back and I was only 3 centimeters dilated. Y'all, my world came crashing down. I was like, do you mean to tell me I've been sweating bullets, bearing down, gritting my teeth, cussing everybody out, and I'm only 3 centimeters dilated? You have got to be kidding me. Honey, that poor nurse saw the dread and fear in my eyes. She had to. And she came over to me and she just put her hand on my back and she said, honey, there is no shame in getting the epidural. I have 4 kids and I got the epidural 4 times. Okay? And she gave me a little wink and she walked out. But that woman put something on me. You hear me? Because I was like, I can't keep going in this way. And I was suffering, y'all. I was suffering unnecessarily because I wanted to control this situation. I wanted to control how this thing went and the perception of me on the other side. So about 10 minutes later, she came back in and I must have looked horrible because she came running over and she said, are you okay? Are you okay? Is everything okay? And I said, can you please give me the epidural? And she lifted my head in her hands and she said, honey, I will gladly give you that epidural. I could have put you out of your misery a long time ago. And y'all, I have never forgotten that. Never. Now, I didn't learn a lesson right away, but that lady's words never left my consciousness. And when God started making space in my heart and in my mind and in my body to be more self-aware, especially when I started reading this book, that memory came back up. And the Holy Spirit says to me, Marci, I could have put you out of your misery a long time ago if you were willing to surrender to me. And it could not have hit harder, guys, with this message with controlling situations. And it also hit home with controlling people. There were so many times in raising my first son, I would try to control what type of human being he was, right? How he behaved, how he acted, the way his personality is. And I would have this reoccurring dream, guys, this reoccurring dream that just scared the HE double hockey sticks out of me. It was this dream that I would be trying to discipline my son, disciplining, and I'm sweating and spit popping out of my mouth and I'm screaming. I am a raging crazy lady. And I am blah, 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 blah. And you need to do this. And you need to do this. And you need to do this. And I'm spewing out all of this, spitting everything. And he is standing there with the most uninterested look on his face, almost to say, I don't care what you say. I'm going to do what I want to do. And that enraged me even more in my dream. Yeah, it enraged me so much that I wanted to shake him. Like I felt myself going toward him to shake him. And that's when I would wake up. And of course, when I woke up from this dream, I would be devastated. I would be devastated. I would be filled with all of this guilt and all of this fear that I'm a bad mom and I'm ruining my child. Now, to clarify, I was not doing what I was doing in the dream in real life. So I didn't need to fear that I was doing that. But what I feared was that my methods were impacting him in that way. And guys, this scared the living daylights out of me. But God, in all of his goodness and his grace, warned me and allowed me to see what I looked like in this reoccurring dream. And I'm telling you guys, I had this reoccurring dream for years, until I woke up and said, I got to do things differently. I have to do things differently. I don't need to manipulate in order to get my way. I don't need to beat the living daylights out of him in order for him to obey me. I don't need to exert my dominance over him. As a matter of fact, I don't have to agree with him. He does not have to agree with me. He is allowed to be the human being that he wants to be. Everybody is. I was so grateful for that dream, even though every time I dreamed it, it would scare me half to death. But I was grateful for the moment, yet another moment of God saying to me, surrender. Surrender your son to me. Now, talk about hard, right? Because that's what this really is about. In order to have the freedom to let people be who they are without it negatively affecting you, to pay attention to how you are trying to control situations and people, it really is about surrendering to what is instead of trying to control what it could be. Surrender. That is the key. That is the key. So everything I did, my choices, my opinions, the moves I made were all caught up in me trying to control because I didn't want to disappoint and I was afraid to surrender my life to God. Now, why? Why? I have been a Christian for I don't know how long. Yeah, that's true, but I'm just learning on how to be in relationship. I was just learning how to be in relationship with God. And being in relationship with God is not all sunshines and rainbows. God has to show you who you are, what you are. He has to show you because he wants to heal you. He wanted to heal me. So he showed me. He gave me freedom that I am capable of making choices that disappoint people. And it doesn't affect me. I am able to receive instruction from God and obey God, regardless if what I'm doing makes sense to anybody. And furthermore, I didn't owe anybody an explanation. I didn't owe anyone an explanation unless I chose to. And if I chose to, I would give it freely without being guilted or gaslit or manipulated into doing it. You know, God also revealed to me the reason I had so much trouble with this area is because I didn't believe God loved me. Now, I knew he did in my mind, but I didn't believe he did, because if I believed that he loved me, I would trust him. And I wouldn't surrender because I didn't trust him, which also meant I did not believe that he truly loved me. I didn't believe that if I let go, he would not catch me. And that was the core of it that I was trying to run away from, which is why I was bearing down, trying to make things happen, because I honestly didn't believe that it could be any other way. I didn't believe that I can trust God and let go and let his will be done. I didn't know that I could let go and let people be whoever they wanted to be, think whatever they want to think, assume whatever they want to assume, and that have nothing to do with me. And so the next part of the process in the let them theory is let me. And what that means is, yes, I'm letting go and I'm letting people be who they are. I'm letting people do what they do. I'm letting situations unfold without the need to control. But I'm also going to look at me. I'm going to look at what I'm doing. I'm going to look at how I'm contributing. And I'm going to focus on what I need to do. It's a shift in focus. Let them, but then let me. Let them assume whatever they want to assume about what I'm doing. But let me stay focused on the mission. Stay focused on the instruction. Stay focused on the vision. You know, this helped me turn off autopilot. And anybody knows anything about autopilot or cruise control, shall I say? You know, you push that button and you don't have to do anything but steer the car. And some of these cars, you don't even have to do that. But that was my life. I had pushed that cruise control button, and every time I faced a bump in the road or a car was slowing down, I grabbed that wheel so tight to control that car so it wouldn't go where I didn't want it to go. And all God wanted me to do is let that wheel go and trust that he would drive it where it needed to go. And the thing about it is, there's freedom in that. It's now, let me tell you now, it's terrifying, but it's also freedom. It's freedom that I don't have to come up with the solution for everybody's problems, that I don't have to be the one to volunteer for everything, that I don't have to take the weight of the world on my shoulders, that I don't have to be the only person to give my son a bath and tuck him into bed and feed him and blah, 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 blah. Right? There's freedom. Because once you start to let people do what they're going to do and you focus on what you need to do, your awareness is open. It's open. It's so open to all of these other opportunities and creative endeavors and peace that you can start to experience. Now, you don't have trouble finding your voice. You can say, I don't like that. You can say, that hurt my feelings. You can say, I feel lonely. I feel scared. I feel angry. You can say, I don't agree. And you can doggone sure say no. And let that be a complete sentence. Now, it was like pulling teeth, y'all, for me to do this. It was like a toddler learning a new language. It was so difficult for me to form the sentence no. And it still is, if I'm honest. And then sit in the awkward silence after that when that person expects you to step up and take responsibility or volunteer or offer your solution to fix this situation. Sitting there awkwardly while we all look at each other and you say absolutely nothing. And I say absolutely nothing. It was so difficult. But clarity came. I started to see where I was being used. I started to see where I was being taken advantage of. I started to see where I was not really respected or appreciated, right? That clarity came when I closed my mouth. That clarity came when I stopped volunteering. That clarity came when I stopped doing everything. That clarity came when I stopped being everything to everybody. That clarity came when I started taking care of myself and putting myself first. To see how people responded to that, that was enlightening. But I also realized that struggle and suffering was a choice. It was a choice that I made. And pride was at the helm of that choice, right? Instead of surrendering, I clamped down and steered the boat regardless of the current. I was going to go against the current instead of riding with the current. Yeah, and pride is at the helm of that. Ego is at the helm of that. I got it. I know how to fix this. I can do it. And all those things may be true. But the struggle and sacrifice that you experience while you're doing all of those things on your own, in your own strength, is your choice. And friends, that is hard to sit with. That is hard to sit with because you have to ask yourself, why can't I let go? Why must it be my way? Why can't I not be involved? Because I don't trust. Because I don't trust. And because I don't believe that God loves me. Because if I truly believe that God loves me, I would have no problem trusting him. And so that's where we had to start in our devotions. When he revealed that to me, I need to know your love, God. I need to know the love of God for myself. I need you to show me because I want to trust you. I want to let go, but I feel like I physically can't. You know, when I was doing my show, Dissonance, we had gotten to the end of the process of the rehearsal. We were getting ready to debut our opening show. And I noticed that the closer we got to the opening night, my body started to be inflicted with incredible pain in my shoulders, in my neck, and in my back. I mean, it was crippling. And I started to freak out because I'm like, I have this show, I got to do this, and I can't, my body is just like freaking out. So I went to a chiropractor and a massage therapist to try to work out some of this pain. And the chiropractor was looking at me like, honey, what is going on? He said to me, what do you do for a living? What are you doing? It is like your shoulders are glued to your ears. And I'm like, I'm not doing anything. I'm an artist. I love what I do. I'm a performer. I mean, I'm doing what I love. And he was perplexed. And I was perplexed. But one day when I came in, he let me get on the massage table and he hooked me up to the stem machine, which is these electrical patches that they stick on you, and your muscles are kind of forced to contract and to release, contract and to release. And it was on that table with this forced relaxation of my muscles that I started to weep uncontrollably. Uncontrollably started to weep as my muscles were being forced to release. And I still wasn't quite sure what was happening, but I made a decision to release and to let go and to let this be what it's going to be. Let the show be what it's going to be. Let the people think what they're going to think. Let it go. And I can't tell you that those nerves went away, because they didn't. But I did get through it. And I got through it. I did more than get through it. I did it in excellence. But it wasn't until some time after the show that I realized, of course, as space is being made to be more and more self-aware, the Holy Spirit revealed to me that my body was simply trying to protect me from telling the truth. Because my body had learned that revealing what you truly feel, what you truly want, what you truly think is dangerous. So my body was trying to protect me by any means necessary. And it started holding on to itself. It started trying to keep me from moving forward because it thought I was in danger. And that was revolutionary for me. And it only doubled down on the fact that your body, your mind, and your emotions and soul are all interconnected. I started to very deliberately tell myself, you are safe. I am not in any danger. I appreciate your care for me, but I'm okay. If you want to hear more of this story, stay tuned to part 2. Thank you for walking this stretch of the journey with me. If something in today's episode stirred your spirit, share this episode with a sister. Leave a review or connect with me on social media. Remember, your softness is sacred. Your healing is your birthright. And your queendom, it's already within you. Until next time, keep rising and claim your inheritance. This podcast was brought to you by Artists at Play, nurturing the artist within.